All right, I want to welcome on my next guest. We've got Florida State legend and New York Jets linebacker legend, Mr. Marvin Jones. Marvin, has everything going for you?
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for taking time. So, first question for you is, what the hell's going on with these Jets?
Oh man, I got double trouble. But I think the thing with the Jets is, they just having a tough time. I just think they're not talented as much as the other teams. I think you go through the transition of looking at Mike McCagnon, the last GM. I mean, they don't have any draft picks on the team from when he was there. So there hasn't been anything they've been able to build a foundation on. And I think when you're talking about football, you have to have different levels of foundation. You have to have some first year guys, some second year, third, fourth year guys, some guys mixed in, and they just haven't been able to build anything, and it's costing them big time. And one of the things that I kind of worry about and I see happening is that you got a first round quarterback that, in many cases, I mean, if you go back to he was drafted on the Todd Bowles, he didn't play. And a lot of times you don't play rookies for a certain reason because you put them out there in the fire too early, it can kind of damage their psyche. And he sat that whole year, pretty much. Then he come back into last year, come in with having mono, missing games, come back. They finished the season 6-2. They started this year off 0-4, which there has been like nothing that has transitioned from 6-2 to now. They've just not been able to get everybody, all of their playmakers on the field at the same time. You look at last year, no Mosley. They lose Robbie Anderson in this year. Le'Veon Bell looked like he pretty much had a pretty good first game, and then he pulls a hamstring. So they have not been able to have any consistency from anybody on either side of the ball. I mean, they got Mosley. Hell, he ain't played in 2 years, and they're paying him out of the pocket. I mean, I would love to be that guy.
No. And speaking of McCagnon, did you ever see that story? I think it came out like last year. Larry David, Larry David from Curb Your
Yeah, I
Enthusiasm.
know. I met Larry David before.
He apparently told McCagnon to take Lamar Jackson on draft night. He said, no, you don't know what you're talking about.
Well, the thing was, when I was there as an intern in 2016, and Larry David was actually at the practices then. He came out to practice, so that's when I actually met him. And seemed like a pretty knowledgeable guy. He was there. I mean, every day Woody. I mean, with I don't know. I think Woody was there every day. Yeah, he was. And a lot of people know, but the thing is about New York is that the history has been so tough. So every coach that you hire is going to pay for the history of the team. And New York is not an easy place to play by any stretch of the imagination. Fans are brutal. And I think one of the things that's probably what's saving Adam Gase right now. There are no fans in the fans right now.
No, I wonder if the speakers are get them to shiver at all anytime they're booing. But no, that's interesting. So I want to ask you a little bit about your football career. How did you end up in Florida State?
Well, being a Miami boy, I mean, obviously that's something that was odd back then. I mean, but I at that time, I just really wanted to get out of Miami. I had my older brother, started at Florida State also from 83 to 86.
Oh, cool.
So I had an opportunity to go visit him a lot, spend some time in the summers, got a chance to be around the program, meet a lot of the coaches because they recruited him. Obviously, they came to the house, so I had a chance to meet them. So I've always felt like I was a part of Florida State, through my brother's recruitment. So.
Oh, cool. I have a question. So I was talking to Leroy Butler about a month ago, and he said that Coach Bobby Bowden was the only coach that showed up to his house to recruit him. Did he do the same for you?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, he did it for my brother, came back for me. Wow. But obviously back then, Chuck Amato, who was a longtime assistant, was one of the big time recruiters for the South Florida area. Obviously he was the main contact, but no, Coach Bowden definitely came. I mean, Coach Bowden's one of those guys. He's gonna come for that free meal. He loved that Southern cookie.
That's why he's coming. Yeah, that's wild. And then, so was there an adjustment period for you, flipping from high school to D1?
Oh, absolutely not.
Really interesting.
I would no, there was none. I would say, because I played tenaciously. I went out there to hit. I played full speed. I mean, I had no cares in the world. I went out there and gave 100%. So, and what you will find is that a lot of guys in college still play like high school. So I think by the way I played, I threw my body around. I played the way, like Dick Butkus told me when I won the Dick Butkus Award. He looked at me and said, "Thanks for playing the game the way it should be played." And that's how I played the game, recklessly. And when you played it, I played at a faster speed. I mean, I was 100 miles an hour. It didn't matter. Shorts, full pass. I ran to the ball. It did not matter.
Do you still have any interest in playing? Because I know the Washington football team needs an inside linebacker.
Well, I mean, I know I'm better than at least one guy in the NFL right now.
Oh,
I can tell you that right now.
oh.
Well, hell, I know I could play on the Jets right now.
But honestly, yeah, could you slide in there? I'm
watching a couple weeks back when a team is 3rd and 50.
Yeah. No, you could do what they did. I remember Ray Lewis's last year when they won the Super Bowl. I remember those plays. They were crediting him with every tackle, and he would just be the last guy to jump on somebody. You could do that. You could do that.
Oh yeah, I could. I mean, money makes you do crazy things.
Of course, that's awesome. And then, so were you, when you're at Florida State, were you focused on school, like on Florida State at the time, or were you projecting for the NFL?
Well, I would say going the way I played my freshman year. I mean, should have been a first team All-American, but obviously being a freshman, they kind of don't give you all the accolades. So I ended up being a 3rd team All-American. But once I got into my second year is when, I mean, I love school. I mean, yeah, okay. But, I went, I mean, that's, you got to understand, when you come from the inner city, you come from families that didn't have much, or poor families and things like that a lot of times. I mean, only way I was pretty much going to get into college a lot was, through playing football or earning a scholarship. My parents didn't have money to pay for me to go to college. So, or through some grants or something like that. But, once you get in there, you get a little taste of it. I mean, going in my second year, I mean, they were already projecting me as a first round, into my second year. So, I did what I needed to do to get what I needed to get.
Yeah. Is it true? I saw you studied psychology. Is that true?
Yeah, I'm a psych. Yeah. My schooling has all been in
cool.
management, psychology, sociology, and some parts of sports. Yeah.
That's awesome. And what was it like playing with Derrick Brooks?
Well, Derrick was definitely a great player. I mean, Derrick, I enjoyed playing with him. I mean, he was just a phenomenal player. He and I had 2 different styles. I mean, Derrick, made a lot of big plays, and, I was known as a big hitter. But I don't think that they're probably between he and I don't think they're during that time period, or even for a long period of time, I don't think that there was 2 probably inside linebackers on the same team that were better than us.
That's wild. And then, so what was your draft process like? How did that whole thing go?
Well, it was a tough process because, obviously I wanted to get out and take advantage of the opportunity. I mean, during that time, it wasn't a lot of underclassmen. We had Terrell Buckley, year before that, or Dion, stuff like that. So coming out early wasn't a very popular thing unless you knew you were going to be a top 10 pick. And after, obtaining, putting the feelers out there and had guys checking with NFL teams, and I found out that, hey, I was going to I could have been vying for number 1, number 2, or number 3. So it was time for me to go. But I think the pivotal point for me was playing at Georgia Tech in '92 season, my last season, and twisting my ankle and missing the next game. And that kind of woke me up because to that point, I had never missed a game in college. So that kind of going into my junior year, that woke me up that, this could be real. I can't risk that. At that point in time, I was already the front runner for the Butkus, the Lombardi, already in the Heisman talk. There was no point in coming back unless it was for a national championship. But that's kind of for the school. That doesn't kind of do anything for my pockets.
Yeah. Did you know that the Jets were looking at you?
Well, yeah. Well, when I went to the combine, I had some talks and talked to every team at that time. New England wasn't very good at the time. I think they had the number 1 pick, and Seattle had the number 2 pick, and the Jets actually had the number 3 pick, and Arizona Cardinals had the number 4 pick. So New England wasn't that good. I wasn't a big fan of going all the way out to Seattle and being a Florida boy. So, I mean, we met at the combine. I talked to Pete Carroll one-on-one. He was a defense coordinator at the time. And I said, look, man, whatever you do, please, please draft me. I want to come to New York like that. So just out of the choices at that time, I mean, that's to me was the best place, opportunity to play football. But at the same time, be able to, if there was anything I wanted to do off the field, being in New York City would have been a perfect place to have, kind of work on two careers per se.
Of course. It's amazing how many fantastic coaches you played for. It blew my mind. Bobby Bowden, Pete Carroll, Herm Edwards. You got Bill Parcells. How are they different?
Well, Belichick was defensive coordinator too now.
Yeah.
So, they were more different just on these styles. I mean, Belichick was very quiet. I mean, he was a quiet guy, but very assertive. I mean, you knew he meant business. Herm Edwards, I would say pretty much in the same boat, but more of a player's kind of coach. Bill Parcells he treated everybody equally, so equally bad. So there was nothing there. But Pete Carroll was the fun-loving guy. Actually tore our parking lot up and built the basketball court there in there. But he would always be at practice hitting golf balls and stuff like that. So he was a fun guy to be around. But I would say when you go when it comes down to business, I would tell you this. Pete Carroll, fun guy, but I can tell you when it comes to football, man, he is all business. In my eyes, he's a lot tougher than Belichick.
Really?
Anyway.
Ooh.
Oh yeah. I mean, he has that personality, but when it comes to football, no.
Interesting.
But Belichick is that study guy, that kind of grunt, that kind of grinder, the kind of guy that, like the guy that's out in the yard digging the ditches. That's the kind of work he does. But his personality is he just doesn't project a personality. He just tell you, this is what I need you to do. But I mean, he can be that guy. But the reason I think with Pete Carroll is because Pete can love you and joke with you, have a great time with you, but man, when you can get lulled into that, but then when he hits you with that football practice and stuff, man, it's rough. Pete is no joke.
Was he always chewing gum back then too?
Pete, oh yeah. Yeah, Pete's the same guy, fun guy. I mean, he's that same guy. I mean, I loved him as a coach. I mean, he's just his styles is very complicated. His defense is a very complicated way he runs his stuff. You have to be a thinker. You cannot be a guy that doesn't understand football playing for Pete Carroll.
Interesting. And then, so I know early on when your time with the Jets, you guys didn't do that well, but you started to gradually pick up. What was it like having that early on, not really having success? And I assume you probably had most success prior to that.
Well, coming out of college, I mean, hell, I think I was 32-5 in college. So I was, always in the top four, never finished outside the top four, being on a winning team, understanding the winning attitude. Going to the Jets, first year, I mean, I ended up missing the second half of the season with a fractured hip, and we went 8-8 that year. That money part of it just complicates it. When you're getting paid to do a job, I mean, it took a lot of the fun out of it for me. So I really, and with the losing, I just wasn't used to that. And you can see that a lot of times in locker rooms when you have guys that are me guys. But, it's something that you can't really control because, all of these guys are professionals. They expect to do their job, and that's something that obviously the team or management has to handle. But it's a different world when you get into an NFL locker room, and if you're losing, you know why you're losing, and you can understand why you're losing because they're just guys that have that selfish mentality. Whereas in college, I mean, you got guys that are having fun, giving the best. You're playing the best of the best. There is no intrinsic, reasons other than the guys love the game and guys, because majority of those guys off a college team aren't going to the NFL. Yeah. So this is their hurrah. They have, they got to get it all in then. So, yeah. But it's tough. It's tough. It can ruin you, but there's a trade-off. If you want to be a high pick and make a lot of money, you're going to always go to the worst team.
Yeah. When did you feel the tides kind of turning and the kind of culture shifting?
Well, that didn't happen until Bill Parcells got there. So you got to go. My first 3 years, I had 3 head coaches. So that sucked. So just dealing with different personalities, and I'm like, oh my God. I mean, and then I would say getting into my 5th year when Bill came in 97, that's when I felt that, I mean, the culture just changed instantly because he was a no-nonsense guy. He came in, he put the hammer down. Hell, he fired the security guards.
Really? I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, he got rid of everybody. Secretaries, I mean, he got rid of everybody. You have to, because in football, and that's the biggest lesson I learned. In football, everybody in that building has to have the attitude of winners. I don't care if it's the secretary to the doorman. Everybody has to present that type of winning enthusiasm in the building. Tickets, I mean, people that have selling the tickets to everybody has to have that that winning type of thing that they project on people. Because just think about it. I mean, if you're a person that's on the outside of an organization, you walk into an organization, that person's at the front desk with a dull, like, not a good attitude or excited attitude, it affects everything. Yeah. So, he changed the whole culture, and that's why. I mean, I love him and thank him for it because hell, that was a blessing for me. In '97, I mean, we one game away from the playoffs. We lose that game against the Detroit Lions, and still finished 9-7. So I mean, that was like I think our worst year was skipping a 4 a couple years later, but 8-8, but. I mean, we've had all opportunity years that he was there. We had good opportunities to be in the playoffs.
What was your reaction when they drafted Keyshawn number 1?
Well, remember Keyshawn came on the Kotite, right?
Hey, what?
Keyshawn, what year did Keyshawn came in 95? 96?
Yeah, I can look at it.
Well, anyway, I'm trying to remember, but yeah, he was on the Kotite. Actually, I believe my mind doesn't serve me right, but anyway, I think it was on the Kotite. Yeah, and I mean, it was a different day back then. I mean, because he was an outspoken rookie and talked a lot, and that's not a lot of times when you have a veteran team because the NFL was more your teams had a lot of older guys back then, so that wasn't real well received. Kind of like me being a first round draft, and I may have said things in the locker room, and they'll look at me and say, "Look, shut up! You ain't been long enough. You're just a damn rookie." So it was still that kind of mentality there. So, but once Keyshawn got in, I mean, he ruffled feathers, but at the same time, the guy went out and played ball, and he did what he needed to do, and that's how you earn your respect in this game. So as time went on, people just accept that, you know what, that's just Keyshawn, you know what I mean? But and you move forward.
And then speaking of you bringing up like with kind of being heckled a little bit by the older guys, do you think an unfairly amount of pressure is put on rookie and second and third year guys early on by the fans while they're already getting it from the older teammates?
No, I don't think so. No. Because once you enter into that arena of getting a paycheck, you've already put yourself in that type of position to be judged or to be ridiculed or to be scrutinized, because that's just part of it. That's just part of the game. Do we always feel like it's fair? No, absolutely not. But that just comes along with it. But the guys that's going to thrive and be successful are guys that are able to tune that noise out and not listen to it. And that's what I tell a lot of people who never played football. Yeah. The difference between football players and people in the entertainment industry is that we've over time learn how to block people out. Yeah. It doesn't affect us like that. Whereas a lot of people, like I tell a lot of people, I mean, if somebody just took your life right now and flashed it all over the screen and put it every public place about your whole personal life, good and bad, how would you handle that? And until this day, like I tell people, I played in New York City, so it ain't really much you can say to hurt my feelings. I've been in listened to the worst media of all. So, I mean, it's just very different. It makes you thick-skinned.
What was the worst thing? What was the thing that really caught your attention? You're just like, damn, that you heard somebody say on either TV or radio while maybe you guys weren't playing that well. Just because New York was like Mike Francesa?
I think one of the things during that period of time is I've learned I would say there's people that have when I've sat there for a couple of days and gave people interviews and they just totally turned the whole damn interview into something totally negative that was positive for 2 days. I mean, those are the kind of things that that just gives you that distrust in the media. But I mean, you find those type of people out there.
Yeah.
But you just have to kind of weed through them, and over time, I've learned who to deal with and who not to deal with, and kind of certain people that I would not give interviews to under any circumstances, because you know what, if you're gonna write what you want to write, then you don't need me. But I've come to respect a lot of guys that I still kind of, tweet and go back and forth with, that I know that were good guys at the time that I always kept in contact with.
Oh, cool. Who was the toughest guy for you to tackle in your entire career?
None of them. But
all right, next question.
but the hardest guy, I mean, one of your best players ever in my thing was Barry Sanders. Obviously, he was probably the best. I mean, he was hell. Just his size, just being able to get your hands on him. He was a tough player. Well conditioned athlete. Got better as the game went along. So to me, he was probably, during my time period, yeah, he was definitely probably the toughest guy.
Interesting. Do you think people sleep on how good Curtis Martin was?
Yeah, I think people do, because Curtis wasn't an outspoken guy. Curtis is a humble Christian dude. He doesn't put a lot of media attention on himself. In football, in this type of world, that's what kind of feeds the masses into people getting to know you and to becoming popular. Curtis Martin was just one of those guys that just went out there and did his job. And so I think in many regards that was the thing that didn't allow people to look at him as being one of the best. But Curtis was a hell of a running back. I mean, strong, could catch the ball, was smart. I mean, he was damn tough between the tackles. He didn't have that breakaway speed, but he was definitely one of the best guys that, I would say probably, he would definitely be in the top 25 guys that ever played in the NFL. He just didn't, if he was Deion Sanders' attitude off the field, Curtis Martin would be considered one of the top guys ever.
What's your funniest Herm Edwards story that from maybe your first interaction with him? Because he's very outspoken.
Yeah, Herm is special. Well, you don't get a lot of stories out of Herm Edwards, because Herm is just, he's a pretty straightforward guy. I mean, we had a decent relationship. I mean, I consider him, I think he's a good guy. He wants to do well. I mean, like I said, but everybody just has a way of how they do it. And, I was used to certain ways of how you do things, and he did things a little differently. But I consider him a good guy. I'll leave it right there.
He always said you play to win the game. Did he say that like every I never curse on here. Did he say that often or no?
Well, yeah. Well, then, but yeah, I would say that he's the guy that wanted to win. He was all about winning. I mean, you got to realize, coming from Tampa Bay, under Tony Dungy, and playing with the type of players, Derrick Brooks and Warren Sapp and guys they had down on that defense. I mean, he was used to that kind of stuff. One of the things, we had we just had our makeup of our staff was just very weird at that time, especially defensively. We had, Ted Cottrell was the defensive coordinator that was with Buffalo for many years. And, we just had a totally different makeup of a staff. And, which in many cases, it causes confusion sometimes. And I was confused at times. But again, being a professional is what you have to go out and you have to do. You're going to be faced with adversity. You're not going to like everybody you work with. But you're there, you're paid to do a job, and that's what you have to do.
Yeah. So I want to ask you a little bit more about the current Jets. Do you think we haven't given Adam Gase enough time?
Well, that depends if you combine the time he had in Miami too.
So if you're the GM, who's the next coach in the New York Jets? Because right now it's not looking too good.
Well, All right. Well, I mean, since we're talking about this, well, I think you have to just go back into, I mean, if you look at how players are judged on a couple things. Players are judged on more on, they're judged a lot on their history, but they're judged a lot more on what their upside could be as what a team see with your potential. When you look at Gase a little bit, I mean, obviously Miami was a disaster. You kind of go back to Peyton Manning. Well, okay, well that's the one thing people hold, that the work with Peyton Manning. Okay, but Peyton Manning was Peyton Manning long before he went to Denver. I mean, I played against the guy. You forgot that the Peyton Manning was in the AFC East before they realigned. So I played against the guy twice a year. He was great then. I can remember the first game when we played them. I'm trying to think, 94, I believe, and we beat them like 90. I'm not 90 something, but like 45-3 or something. I mean, and we beat the hell out of them. And I told him, I said, man, I went up to him, I said, man, you know, you are one of the best. You're gonna be one of the best damn guys ever played this game. I saw that potential. No different. The same thing I saw with Tom Brady when Tom Brady came in as a rookie, and you know, and you see those type of things. So, but he was great already. Yeah. So now, if you're a coach and you take somebody that's like, say, Tom Brady. Tom Brady was a 5th, 6th round draft choice. Yeah. You take Tom Brady and make Tom Brady what he is, that's coaching. Yeah. I mean, the best thing to do with talent is what? Leave it alone. Yeah. Just let it do that. Now, look, Miami was a difficult situation, but no, I wouldn't even say that. I mean, he had Tannehill.
Yeah, and then you let him go and he takes him almost to the Super Bowl.
Right. Tannehill, then, I mean, like I said, we held Sam back, but look, Sam has had ups and downs, a lot of it non-football related. Like I said, coming in he sits his rookie year, he comes in the second year, he has that mono. Yeah. He misses, I don't know, 3-4 games probably. So he had no time to really gel with his wide receivers, in which he has some good guys. We lose Robbie Anderson's eating hell. He's eating up in Carolina. He's doing well in Carolina. So they never really, I don't think, ever got that continuity between those guys. And then you look at coming into this year, when they finally do get to clicking 6-2 at the end of the season, we let them go. Yeah. So I'm just saying now some of that times, a lot of times, I think having injuries can save a coach a lot of times. But I don't think that's going to be enough this year because, like I said, the only other thing besides the injuries is the fact that there aren't fans in that stand. Yeah. That's the other factor that I think right now that may prolong. Will he get canned during the season? No. They'll wait till the end of the year. There's no point in bringing somebody in because you got to pay him anyway. Yeah. So you might as well let them be tortured for the rest of the year if that's what's going to happen. I want them to do well, but I mean, they're 0-4 right now. And looking at that schedule, buddy, it just doesn't seem.
They got Flacco's playing Sunday. I heard Darnold's out.
Well, right, with the shoulder. But you got to go. You got to look at it this way. We played against Denver. Denver had 7 or 8 practice squad players.
They got Mark Riffin's nephew out there looking like a all-pro.
Right. So, and then you go back the week before, and the defense was bad. I mean, against the 49ers.
They were back up too.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It was so. If you can't win, if they win that game on Thursday night, it may turn a corner for them to maybe produce maybe 2-3 wins, But them losing that game, now coming back having to play, I mean, it's gonna be tough. And I think a lot of that can be, what are you gonna do at this point? Because if you're 0-4, right? You got a veteran quarterback in Flacco, who does have experience. So to me, what if Flacco goes out there and plays and handles the thing and moves the ball? I mean, I know it's going to still be Sam Darnold's job, but as a coach, where do I go from here? Because you know what? at the same time, because I probably know I'm going to get canned, I mean, I'm still going to try to win some games.
Yeah. Do you think long term they're going to regret trading Jamal Adams?
Hell, they're regretting it right now. I mean, Greg Williams' defense looked like shit. I mean, it looks worse than it's looked in a long time. I mean, when we look at it, I'll just tell you this, because once Jamal got traded, they played the first game, they lose at Buffalo. Okay? I look at that game, I said, man, the Jets don't look that bad. Because they didn't. I mean, May had Marcus May had a good game. I mean, that was one of probably his best games because he had been nicked up in the past. He had a good game. I already knew McDougal coming from Seattle. Obviously, if Pete Carroll caught him, the guy does have some potential. He played for Pete Carroll. But once they got past that game, I was like, whoa, wow. And then all of a sudden, and what's weird is you bring in Perriman to replace Robbie Anderson, and Perriman ain't playing either. So it's like when they say
you got Braxton Berrios.
Now
cousin.
I like Braxton Berrios.
He's not bad. I'll give him that. He's not bad.
He's a good guy. I mean, he's obviously a good third receiver.
Yeah.
If you're gonna use him as like a Wes Welker type, but he ain't no number one. The Jets have they made a tough situation tougher. I think when you look at just within the last 10 years, between Izzik and we've not built any foundation. And that's the problem. I mean, if you look at all the guys we let go, a lot of guys that didn't turn out. You look how much money we invested, so much money in. I mean, Sheldon Richards is playing well over in the Browns.
Yep.
I mean,
where's Wilkerson? Where's Wilkerson now? I haven't heard of that name in a while.
Well, that's another situation. I don't know if he's playing.
I don't think
he's playing anymore.
No.
So that's been wow.
And they paid that corner of last year where they gave it all that money. I think they cut him.
Yeah. What was his name?
The dude who was on the Rams.
I know he's talking about.
I'm drawing a blank. I know
you're talking about. I cannot think his name. Yeah, they paid him crazy money. So what I'm saying, we've been paying these guys that's not been producing. You look coming in this year, the Jets have probably got $60 million sitting over there that are not playing this year between Mosley. Mosley hadn't played in 2 years. Remember, he got hurt the first game. I mean, early last season with the groin, and he didn't play no more than a year. And he opted out of this year.
I used to see Mosley when he was on the Ravens. I went to Taos, and I used to see him out at the bar like a night or two before the game. So he was always very pleasant, but you guys need him on the field. Yeah.
But yeah, and the thing is with them, like I said, the Jets have not built a foundation. If you look at the best years of the team, even when our years, I mean, we've had a couple coaches change at that time, but we were a veteran team. Vinny Testaverde, Chad Pennington, Curtis Martin, myself, Mo Lewis, guys like Brian Cox, that were able to help those young guys. So we had that type of stability to build. You got to have it. They don't have it. You cannot. It's no different. I'm going to tell you exactly what it's like. Florida State and the New York Jets are pretty much the same in a lot of ways. The Florida State, Jimbo leaves, they hire Willie Taggart for 2 seasons. Guess what? Well, when Willie Taggart gets fired, you lose those 2 recruiting classes. Or the recruits he's went after, they're all going to leave and decommit. So now you get nothing. So you have 2 years of recruiting loss. No different than the Jets. Since Todd left, 2017? No, 2017, 2018. What do you have for the last 2? They've lost 4 years. 4 years. I was there interning in 2016. There ain't one guy on that team in 4 years. How do you not have one guy? Wait, that's one contract. And I can remember, and I was watching TV when I watched the Broncos game the other night. Guess one guy that was on the Broncos that was on the Jets team that got cut? Shelby Harris.
He was on the Jets?
Yes.
It's phenomenal. He's great. I mean, wow.
He got cut during the period of time when I was there interning. Shelby Harris was there. and he got cut. But they had that year. They had Sheldon, Muhammad,
pretty good D-line.
but McClendon, obviously Jenkins. They still got. But I remember that, and I watched that, and I traveled a lot in Colorado. So I mean, I still keep in contact with Shelby Harris, and I see him all over the TV, and I was like a leader of the team.
Yeah.
But he was on that team.
I know they were picking on Pierre Desir the other night. You think if they called Revis, he might be interested in playing half a season, or
no, they're gonna go with that guy. And I'll tell you what, now initially the way it looked like it was gonna be a horrible night for him.
Yeah, I think he had 2
but
picks.
I think the kid turned it around. I mean, he came back a pick 6, came back, and he had 2 interceptions.
Yeah.
So, but that's what you have to do, because that's what a good offensive coordinator will do. When he fires that wink, he's going to continue to go after it until you either make something happen or change, or you put somebody else in there, which is obviously he's the best. What they got, so the next guy they put in is going to be worse. But he's going to make you, they're going to play that chess game with you. He's going to keep going until you can shut it down. And that kid showed up and he did that. So there's no point in making a change there. I think right now what you got is a player that's turned the corner.
Do you think Chris Herndon's the real deal? Everybody's been hyping him up. I never hear him calling a name on during the games.
Repeat the question.
Chris Herndon. Every year they're like, "Oh, it's a breakout." I was talking to people earlier. They said you
Oh,
break
you
that
mean
tight
end?
Yeah, they were saying Noah Fant, T.J. Hockenson, Chris Herndon. Remember those names this year. I've only heard 2 of them this year.
Well, I'll say this. I think Becton is the best player on the offense.
Probably the fastest.
Fastest, toughest. I'm going to say this. I think there's a huge disconnect between the coach and this team. That's what I believe. And that's not just blowing smoke.
Of course.
That's because if there's anybody that can speak on coaching changes and all of that type of stuff, I can. Yeah. I've had 6 NFL head coaches in 11 years.
Wow.
So I understand certain things that happen, and I can look at the sideline, I can look at the game, and I can tell where there's that disconnect. And that's where that's a huge disconnect, because if you watch games as they go along, okay, I'll give you an answer. Look at Josh McDaniels.
Okay.
Up at the Patriots. Well, he and his quarterbacks have a good relationship. They always sit on the sideline talking, going over stuff. And I don't see that. There's always an issue. There's always been some issue with that connection. You can look at going into the offseason, Le'Veon Bell and Gase. Well, I want to be back. Well, this guy says, well, it's up to Joe Douglas. You know what I mean? It's that. Jamal Adams, same thing. You go back to Miami. Miami had one of the best running backs the one that went to the Eagles when they went to the Super Bowl. I cannot think of his name.
Oh, Ajay.
Yeah,
he must have been.
Got rid of him.
Yeah.
So, I honestly kind of look around and I see, obviously, the ownership and management have things to do, but I just think that there's that disconnect with that. I think that when you coach, the coach and the GM has to be on the same page, because the GM, obviously Joe Douglas is probably wanting to have build his own things the way he wants to. It's just a lot of things right now going on with Jets doesn't make sense. I mean, we go through last year, guys being injured. That was a big problem, guys being injured. Now we got a first-round draft choice that has a shoulder injury that shows up at the game that wasn't expected to play, but the guy gets hurt. The other guy gets hurt in the first series, and he's thrown out there. This is one of the best freaking guys on your team. Why is he even there?
Do you sit through from start to finish these Jets games, or is there a point where you sometimes say, you know what, I can't watch this?
No, I watch him. I watch the game because that's the only way I can make a comment on him. I watch the games for that purpose, but it's just difficult. I mean, it's like I said, that makes absolutely no sense. You throw your first round draft pick out there in the fire with a shoulder injury in a game that
means nothing. They're playing at practice squad, I guess. I mean, Denver was.
But then I forget. I mean, I know it came about the game, and it was something.
Yeah.
Whereas he wasn't going to injure it any worse. But why?
I don't know. No,
but we had that problem last year with the offensive linemen. Because I think one of them even tried to sue the team after that because they kept making them play hurt. There was a big squabble.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
About that. So it's like we're just doing things that don't make sense. I mean, why endanger, stuff like? And I think that kid was pissed too because I saw a look on his face.
Becton?
Why? Why am you guys doing that to me? But I love the Jets. Always support the organization, the team. Always want the best for them. But sometimes it's okay to be a little critical.
Yeah, of course.
Of the team that you want to win. I mean, being a former player, obviously, I take it a lot more personal. But I've always been a person. I believe I'm always going to be loyal. I'm loyal to my team. I'm not loyal to the coach.
Of course,
coaches come and go, but the organization is the organization.
Do you have a lot of players like current players or maybe past players that have reached out to you, knowing that you had success with the team, to say like, "Hey, what should I do just to get there?"
No, not really.
Interesting.
I think once players get to a certain level, they already know everything. They don't need help. It's not like when I went in my days, when you look to veterans for help. It's not like that anymore. There's not that. I mean, you got to remember, hell, I mean, you get back. Let's just take a step back. Let's go look at colleges. For many years, we all lived where? Dormitories.
Of course.
We all lived together.
Yeah.
Players don't live together anymore. So they don't have that where we was sitting in our dorm room, everybody going from room to room, playing cards, building that camaraderie now. They don't have that like they used to. And I think a lot of that's just once it goes through college and it goes to the NFL. I mean, we had, I don't know if a lot of teams do it. Some coaches may require them to do it, but we did a lot of time we spent together. Every Monday night as a team, we went down to the local bar, which in the back, they had a big room they set up for the players. We watched the game. They put the game on. We played cards and all that kind of stuff. We did a lot of stuff like that, But from my understanding, from me talking to people that's inside the NFL, I mean, a lot of that stuff just doesn't transpire anymore like that. It's like, bam, once they walk out of the gate, all right, see you. And, I was thinking the other day about the story with when they asked Steve Smith about the Cam Newton thing. He said, well, I really didn't know him. I mean, I was an older guy, had a family, so I didn't really hang out with them young single guys. But hell, that's your quarterback.
Well, Cam's also sending out those group messages where you don't know what the hell he's saying in the funny font. You go to the wrong place, you go to the wrong bar, no one's there. But no, it's
right. But so I think that's part of society now.
Yeah.
And the only thing you're just looking at society. I mean, football players are society, part of society, and things in society are going to creep into that world.
Yeah.
And you're just not going to find that closeness or players, that type of what we had, that continuity between the players amongst themselves. That's just society now. I mean, that's just the way it is. But teams that are able to foster that, I'm sure that happens. I mean, I'm sure Belichick and New England, those guys are doing it. I mean, that's like, New England's probably one of those teams where before they bring a guy there, he acts, and the players probably tell him, you know what, if you come up here, you better be ready to go. And because we're not having it. That's what the players demand. When you have good coaches, those players demand that. Guys like McCoy, or they're going to demand that you come in there with the right attitude. You go to Seattle, they're going to demand that type of attitude that you come in with there.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a distant cousin that plays on the Patriots, Kyle Duggar. So.
Yeah, the second rounder.
Yeah, that's my mother's sister's grandson.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah,
so he's doing well. So
yeah, that's awesome. Hey, if Belichick's taking a guy, he sees something. So like,
yeah, but he was like the first Division II player picked in the first 3 rounds.
Yeah,
7-8 years. So
yeah, that's wild.
But he's doing well. I've been watching him play, so he's doing really well.
That's awesome.
So I'm happy. So it doesn't matter how long he plays. By him starting or playing for Belichick, whether he makes it, stays there for a career.
Yeah.
But if he goes to any other team, they're going to get a great player because of that attitude and all that other good stuff that's going to come with it.
Yeah. I have a question. Were you grateful that you get to spend your entire career with one team?
Am I grateful?
I mean, was there ever a time where you were looking back on it, you're like, I'm glad I really didn't move around that much? Like, because now guys, everybody's.
I'm glad in many ways. I think I had I did have other opportunities to leave and go to other teams. And sometimes I question that. And a lot of that's just because of the winning aspect of it, because especially early on, I really couldn't do much about it because once you sign a rookie contract, I mean, you know, first round, you committed to 5 years regardless. And they wasn't allowing players to move like they do now because remember, free agency didn't start until 1993. I was drafted in 93.
Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of teams wasn't, I mean, that was kind of, once I got there when guys started moving. But, you know, it was always unheard of thing to have guys play. I mean, myself playing there 11 years. My other teammate, Mo Lewis, was there 13 years.
Oh, wow.
So we, you know, during that time, we had the second longest tenure of NFL teammates in history behind Frank Winters and Brett Favre and the Packers. So that was rare, but I mean, I do at many times wonder what it could have been because I had a lot of my teammates. What happened? Scott Pioli leaves the Jet, goes to New England, take players with him. Brian Cox, Bobby Hamilton, Roman Pfeiffer, guys that I played with, and they all go to Super Bowls, win the Super Bowl. James Farrier, who I don't know why the hell we let him go. He goes to Pittsburgh, wins 2 rings.
He did pretty well over there.
I mean, we let these guys, I mean, they won their Super Bowls, and I always wonder, like, you know, what if I had made that choice to, you know, just say, you know what, let me just go and do my thing. But I you know, I was just loyal. I mean, I knew New York. It was comfortable. I was there, knew the people, knew the city, knew the organization. So, you know, it just really wasn't that. I didn't have any ear or anger or hate towards the organization. Yeah. They've always treated me fairly when I had contracts come up. I mean, yeah, where there's tough negotiation at time, yeah, but you know what? They always did right by me. So I can't question that though.
How cool was it to sign that one-day contract and retire as a Jet?
Well, it was great 2 years later.
Yeah.
It was
That's awesome.
No, it was great being able to do that. I was a little pissed by the way things happened because when we were released, me and Mo Lewis both got released in early 2004. And I mean, it was just a one-liner. You would think after
really
years, and I spent 11 years there, we would have had something. But so 2005, when we had that was the first time that we pretty much had been contacted by them to do anything. So, you know, it's kind of when I watch a lot of these other players lead their organization that's been there 10 years, 11 years, hell, they give them a press conference and be like, you know, but that's just what it is, you know.
Yeah.
Hey, man. It's a trade-off. You take the money. That's how it works.
Do you think the New York market appeal is still around in the NFL? Like players will no? You don't think so?
No, I don't think so. And the reason that is you're paying 50% all these damn taxes.
Yeah.
The taxes kill you. A lot of the players, and you know, and I look at a trend. I've seen a lot of guys go to New York, get a lot of money. And they went for the money. It wasn't because they could help the team. I mean, I look at all the, you know, it's like they wanted their payday. The Jets offered them that payday. I mean, look, I'm just saying, you go back to guys that's on that team now.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you not play all last season and then you opt out the next season?
I'm pretty sure the Jets offered Cousins more than the Vikings.
They probably did. I mean, it would have been worth it.
Yeah.
They'd have ran him out of there by now. But
they'd be selling insurance.
I think the toughest thing, and I mean, I blame, some of it could be on ownership, but I just think New York, no matter whether you playing for the Giants or the Jets, it's a tough place to play. Yeah. Fans put a lot of pressure. You know, they can make or break teams with the fanfare. I think that is just a tough place to play all around for the media. I think a lot of decisions sometimes are made based upon what the perception of, you know, the city as a whole is. And, they're heavily influenced by a lot of that because remember, people don't go to the games. People in New York tell you they're not going to games. They're not going to games.
Yeah. They
mean what they say. That they don't play with that stuff. But I think that, moving forward, I think, this season's probably going to be one that's not non-salvageable. I just don't see it with the injuries. They haven't given, you haven't gotten any hope that there probably will be. Just what are they going to do at this point? I mean, especially with the COVID thing going on, you just can't bring players in and off the street, replace players. What good quarterbacks you have out there if you do need another one? None. I mean, wide receiver market, and I mean, with that schedule they have, it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be cool if they bailed me out of that shitty '96 season we had. I mean, but they got to go 0-16, which I hope they don't.
Yeah. I have a question. Does anybody ever tweet at you thinking that you're Marvin Jones Jr. on the Lions?
People ask me that all the time. But I had a guy today tweet at Marvin Jones Jr. thinking he was me. Because my son is on there and he's Marvin Jones Jr. too. But he doesn't have the official stamp.
Yeah. That's why, because people in Twitter are fantastic. But that's really all the questions I really have for you. And how can people find you on social media? Find you, not the other Marvin Jones, on social media.
Well, they can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Marvin Jones Jets.
Cool.
MarvinJonesJets. Both media platforms. I thank you for having me on.
Absolutely.
Being able to express myself because you probably got the most content out of me anybody's gotten out of me. I mean, as far as real truth and content, my 100% feelings. Because as you get older, things just come out. I mean, hell, they ain't gonna hire me anyway. So what do I gotta hold back?
They might. You never know. Greg Williams is putting up those wanted ads for opposing offenses. They might need a new D coordinator. So keep your phone up by you.
No, that's all right. I'll let that burn by itself.
Yeah, but this has been a lot of fun. So I want to thank you again.